Hello, Connections. Glad you're here. Beginning on yet another week, playing off some of the themes that Warren brought up in his message on Sunday, as well as things that Jasmine covered the previous Sunday, as well as what we have been talking about of the call to live a righteous life, to leave our old life behind. And as we were speaking last week, of choosing to live in the light, completely submitted to God, willing to allow others to witness our transformation and let loose of all of the things that God may bring to our attention that don't belong in the light. That is the challenge before us. And I think Jasmine, as well as Warren yesterday, have created a pretty sizable list of the reasons why people choose not to live in the light. Last week I referenced people that are choosing to live in the shadows. That comes from John 3:19, where the author emphasizes that the state of the world is that nobody wants to go into the light because they want to continue to do bad things. But those that do choose are rewarded by God. And that's what we want to press forward to, is be one of those few that choose to live a life that glorifies God each and every day. And you will truly be called a light bearer. And so that's what we are pushing towards this week as light bearers, life on the front lines, part 1. God does not lead us to step out into the light without equipping us. And so we want to emphasize that. We will today. But we also want to recognize that we are not stepping out alone. But it may feel that way. Why? And probably of all the reasons people do not choose to follow Christ, it's because the majority of folks aren't following Christ. If you would look at that shadow once again, and you'd see a bunch of people huddled together on the fringes of the light, there's a lot more of them than there's those that are choosing to truly trust God. God gave this image this morning. It was and helps to how Victor responded to the message on Friday of the beach in the middle of summer, 95 degrees, and you have a beach umbrella, and just about 50 yards away is the ocean, and it's inviting you. It looks cool. It looks, just the place that you desire to be. But in order to get there, you must cross 50 yards of sun that's been heating up through all of the morning into the afternoon. And so you boldly prepare yourself, step out into the light, get about a quarter of the way there, realize your feet are burning, and rush back, not to the ocean, but back to the safety of that umbrella and the shade. That is what, unfortunately, we witness, and perhaps what you've experienced in your relationship with God, is you want so much to be out there and engaged in all of the things that God has promised. And it looks so inviting. But as you take those first steps of faith, you realize you're not equipped, and you rush back to what you know. Where might we see this in the Bible? Well, if you haven't caught it yet, it's Peter stepping from the boat. Had a whole lot of folks gathered around him saying, "Don't go out. It's not safe. The water is rough and the storm is raging." But Peter's like, "Call me, Lord, and I'll come." And he takes a few steps out from underneath that umbrella, but then realizes that the distance that he needs to cover, and he's poorly equipped, and he rushes for, well, in this case, calls for Jesus' aid. It's our nature to want to be a follower of Christ, but feel as if we are poorly equipped, and as soon as the things of this world come against us, we rush back to what we know. We must defeat that thought in our head and persevere in order for us to get to where God is calling us to be. So our passage this week is one of our favorite passages. It comes from Romans 8. And does it mean he no longer loves us if we have trouble or calamity, or are persecuted, or hungry, or destitute, or in danger, or threatened with death? No. Despite all of these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ, who loves us. And that's the key. We aren't stepping out by faith into nothingness or into a broiling beach. We are stepping out in faith into Jesus's arms. And he is there to embrace us and equip us with everything that we need. We must stop looking around and say, well, why isn't anybody else going out? If it's so wonderful, why are there more people sheltering here in the shade than there are people willing to live a life of faith? Well, let's not rely on groupthink, on what the majority is doing, because that is surely a way to end up a great distance from God. We must be willing to step out when others are not. So we're going to start by looking at the battlefield, for that's the lens that Paul gives us a few times as he's addressing the church of we are fighting a battle with internally, as we've just referenced, and a battle spiritually, because the devil does not want us to succeed. He does not want people to leave what he has created as the perceived safer place. And he will do anything within his power to convince you to lay down and quit. And there's a spiritual battle raging around us each and every day where God is encouraging us forward and the devil is encouraging us to lay down and die. That's the battle lines. That's the front lines that we're referencing this week. So Romans 13, starting in 11, this is all the more urgent, for you know how late it is. Time is running out. Wake up! For our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is almost gone. The day of salvation will soon be here. So remove your dark deeds with like dirty clothes and put on the shiny armor of right living. Don't let yourselves think about ways to indulge your evil desires. All right, so we have our first thread, once again, of we must clothe ourselves. Okay, if you're at the beach, it'd be much smarter to put on some of those beach shoes and step out into that broiling sun than go barefoot. And here the same thing, we're starting to pick this thread of if you are going to take this step of faith, make sure you are properly equipped so that when you step out in faith, that the enemy can't broil your feet or draw you back into your old ways, into your sinful life. So we must put Jesus' righteousness on and shed our old way of doing things. Because we belong to the day, we must live decent lives for all to see. Don't participate in darkness of wild parties and drunkenness or in sexual promiscuity or immoral living or in quarreling or jealousy. Instead, clothe yourself with the presence of the Lord Jesus Christ and don't let yourselves think about ways to indulge your evil desires. So Paul here doubles down on what he just spoke a moment ago and the importance of being properly equipped, the importance of clothing ourselves in Jesus' righteousness, the importance of letting go of the things of our past. And if you follow the initial statement, others are watching. Others are watching to see from that very edge if your feet are going to get burned as you step out towards the promise, or are you going to make it? And the way we encourage others to step out in faith is we live a life that demonstrates how much better it is in relationship with God. They're waiting for us to fail. They're waiting for us to step out in faith and crumple. And we've done it more than once. And maybe as we fail and we watch others try to step out in faith, we're like, well, I didn't make it, so I hope they don't make it because they'll make me look bad. Have you noticed in relationship with the people in your life that oftentimes they're rooting against you to succeed? Those are not people that you should have in your life. If they celebrate your return to the safety of the shadows versus you stepping out into your new life, then those people need to be out of your life. Misery loves company. Sinners love having others that they can say, well, I'm not the only one. We are being called to break loose of all of that, be properly equipped by God, and step out in faith. So we're going to end today in the obvious place, and this is for Stu and for all of you that started through all of but it's so rich in this idea of all the equipment that God is providing so that your feet won't burn. So your eternal soul won't burn. And that is the loving gesture to make sure that when you are stepping out into the light, how you will survive in the light is because you are armored up with everything that God willingly provides those who are willing to take this step of faith. A final word: be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all the strategies of the devil. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against the evil rulers and authorities of unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. So when we get out, we step out in faith. We're like, Lord, I am willing to live the rest of my days in the light for my own well-being, for my eternal soul, and for all of those who might follow behind me. Help me stand firm. Help me dig my heels out and refuse to go back to where I came from. Truly is a spiritual battle. Truly is every day making the choice to stay where God has placed you, in the light. Therefore, put on every piece of God's armor so that you will be able to resist the enemy in the times of evil. Then after the battle, you will still be standing firm. Stand your ground. Let's stop. Remember about when the word is repeated over and over and over again, that we should highlight it and underline it before we get to all the fancy equipment that God provides us. The goal here is for you to stand firm. And anybody that's ever stepped out on a 95-degree day into that broiling sand knows that it's almost impossible to stand there. Got to keep moving the feet. Ow, ow, ow. And then run back to the safety of the shade. That isn't a successful venture, a step of faith towards your goal of reaching the ocean. If the devil can get us moving in the wrong direction and feeling all that uncomfortable pain, we've already lost. You will know today, if you choose to step out in the light, whether you are properly equipped or you are fodder for the enemy. Because you will not be moving around, you will not be uncomfortable, you will find your ability through Jesus Christ to stand out in that what's uncomfortable for others, you are willing to do because you are submitted and committed to your life with God. All right, let's get into the equipment and see if we can land this plane. Then after the battle, you will be standing firm. Stand your ground, putting on the belt of truth and the body armor of God's righteousness, and shoes for the sand. Put on the peace that comes from the good news, so that you will be fully prepared. In addition to all these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. Put on the salvation as your helmet, and take the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. All of that equipment, everything we speak of daily, is purposed to equip you. You have to be willing to walk in the truth. You have to be willing to be focused on your relationship with God each and every moment of the day. You must be willing to seek God in your word, in his word, so that you will have the words to speak and share with others. These are the basics of everything that God is trying to embed in you. And in a very clever way, Paul has put them together in a proper equipment for the day. How you are going to live in the light for the rest of your days. Pray in the Spirit at all times, on every occasion. Stay alert and be persistent in your prayers for all believers everywhere. So sometimes when you go to the beach, you bring your beach shoes. Sometimes you go to the beach and you don't bring your beach shoes. Well, guess what? That inconsistency isn't going to get you the results you're looking for. When you go to the beach, you have a kit that you put together. This is what I'm going to need for the day. I'm going to need to be hydrated. I'm going to need the sunscreen. From last week. Going to need the proper shoes to get from that 50 yards. Going to need, what else? Some sandwiches. You can sand it. I digress. Anyway, you got a kit. God's equipped you with a kit that's much more important than your beach kit. And that's your survival kit to remain in the light for the rest of the days. We're going to look to see some more pieces and parts of that kit next time. I know I've kept you a little bit too long and you're longing to go to the beach. So we'll close out today. I look forward to talking to you again in part 2. Stay tuned for that. Until then, know that I love you and I miss you, and please be good.